What's going on guys, Chris here, and today we're going to be taking a good look at the cyborg ninja Genji. Along with all of those weapons and abilities, going over how to use them in combat, tips and tricks, tactics, strategies, and everything in between. Genji is one of the harder characters to master, warranting that 3-star difficulty rating, as his attacks are all based around timing and accuracy, often with the need to blend a few of them together in one go to protect yourself, stay alive, and take out the opposition. Though if you can chain together those moves and land those hits, he can be a very deadly hero to be up against, often being a perfect one to deal finishing blows in the heat of battle, use that extra mobility to flank enemies to get the drop on them, and to just generally be an absolute menace for long-range snipers and slower heroes to take on in CQC. So Genji, Hanzo's little brother, was born into the Shimada Empire, a clan of assassins that trained in the arts of sword fighting, archery and martial arts, which became corrupted over the years, often being involved with illegal weapons and drugs trading. Genji trained with his dragon sword, but had no interest in his family's illegal business, and was often distracted by luxury, wealth, and trying to pursue a playboy lifestyle. After his father, the head of the clan, died, he was ordered by Hanzo to be more responsible, and act as an important figure for the clan. Genji refused to do this, which led Hanzo into rage, leading to a violent sword fight that left Genji fighting for his life. Although Hanzo believed he had killed his brother, he was secretly saved by Overwatch and healed back to full health by Mercy. His body was badly butchered, though he was offered advanced prosthetics to help Overwatch in return. Genji became a weapon for Overwatch, though he also tasked himself to take down his family's criminal empire too. But over time, although he was granted with more agility and power, Genji didn't really like what he had become, and was repulsed by those mechanical limbs. So he abandoned Overwatch to eventually cross paths with Zenyatta, who went on to mentor Genji and taught the half-human, half-cyborg to accept himself as his human soul was still intact. But anyway, it's time to go over those abilities, and the main weapon that you'll be using as you play as Genji will be a bunch of Shurikens that can be thrown in a couple of different ways. His primary method is to quickly toss 3 deadly throwing stars forwards, one after the other in a short volley. Though his other way, the fan of blades, lets Genji throw the 3 Shurikens outwards at the same time, but over a wide horizontal spread instead. No matter which way you choose to throw them though, each Shuriken is going to deal the same amount of damage of 28 each. If all 3 throwing stars hit your target, it'll deal a nice 84 damage in total. Though you can still score headshot damage, which is going to double it up. Plus there aren't any range penalties either, so if you can land those stars, it can deal sizable amounts of damage. They are projectile based, so you will need to lead targets that are moving, making those enemies scurrying around in the distance all the more tricky to hit. The primary burst throwing method is generally better for chipping away health against targets at longer ranges, down to all 3 stars being thrown straight ahead of you. Though you won't be able to throw quite as quickly as you can with the fan of blades, as you'll only be able to throw 1 flurry per second, as opposed to twice with the secondary way. The primary mode is a very good option to use against stationary targets like Bastion Sentry, Torbjorn's turrets and slow moving snipers, as they'll be much easier to hit with that lack of mobility. Plus they're generally more geared up for taking on lone players wandering around in the distance. The fan of blades however is mainly suited for killing targets closer up, when you need to get multiple hits to land quicker, down to it being able to be used more often. It's less accurate, and all 3 of your Shurikens probably aren't going to hit your target unless you're at point blank range, though the speed at which you can throw them often makes up for this lack of accuracy. Plus they're also a much better option to use against tank characters, with those larger hitboxes up close. Even though the Shurikens are throwing projectiles, you'll still technically need to reload, as Genji readies up some fresh stars of pain to toss out at his victims after every 24th throw. And because you launch 3 Shurikens out per throw, this means that you can essentially attack 8 times before the need to reset your ammo. Leading moving targets is essential for landing hits, and you're probably going to have to practice, as they can be pretty tricky to master. Precision and the judgment of enemy movements is key for doing well with the Shurikens. Genji's passive ability is Cyber Agility, granted by those advanced prosthetic limbs. This lets him climb walls in a similar way to Hanzo, plus double jump to gain some height to scale high ledges, get around the map easier, often where other heroes can't reach, or to maneuver around your opponents and make yourself a harder target to hit. Using both the double jump and then the wall climb can get you around the map, climbing over walls and obstacles to flank the enemy team and reach objectives stealthily. You'll have to play around experimenting on the different maps, but you might be surprised at where you can actually get to if you try. If there's a vertical wall in the way, there's a good chance that you'll be able to get over it using that cyber agility. Now, a more defensive ability that Genji has to protect himself from incoming fire is Deflect. This not only blocks incoming projectiles, but also sends those shots flying back at the sender to deal the damage that would otherwise have been dealt to Genji if Deflect hadn't have been activated. It's a surprisingly useful ability, as this dual purpose of both blocking and possibly dealing damage allows it to help out in several different ways. It's only effective against attacks from the front, so you're still vulnerable from behind. It also blocks melee damage, but for obvious reasons it's not going to make the other guy punch himself in the face, as that'd just be stupid. And so melee damage isn't rebounded, plus Roadhog's chain hook will be blocked, but not rebounded either. To successfully bounce shots back at a shooting target to deal damage, you'll have to be looking in their direction, as the shot's going to miss otherwise, though it will still protect you from its damage. This means that you should practice lining your crosshairs up with enemies as you use it, and get into the habit of aiming at them whilst activating the ability for it to be most effective. With all that said, there's a few abilities that can't be blocked, including Zarya's Particle Cannon Beam, Mei's Blaster, Symmetra's Photon Beam, Winston's Tesla Cannon, along with Lucio's Soundwave. Apart from these though, you can pretty much block anything projectile based or hit scan, though the deflected shots will mirror the same properties as the projectile, meaning it's going to travel back at an enemy with the same speed and velocity. When used against heroes that can deal tons of damage, like with a fully charged Widowmaker shot or Hanzo's bow, it can be very deadly if you can time deflect at the right moment. It's a great way to advance in enemy positions, as you can rush up to your opponents being temporarily guarded by Deflect, closing the gap to take on your targets at a closer range. And this also allows you to get through dangerous areas that are guarded by hostile players, and Torbjorn's turret much more safely. Not to mention that it's a punishing ability to use on Bastion, as you can literally just stand in his line of sight, allow him to fire at you, activate Deflect, and force him to mow himself down in a shower of his own bullets. Plus when used against a trigger-happy Reaper in close quarters, it'll often be enough to put them down on its own. Not only can Deflect be useful against normal attacks, but it can also be really powerful when used on some ultimate abilities too, such as McCree's Deadeye, Farah's Barrage, Soldier 76's Tactical Visor, Bastion's Tank Form, and Reaper's Death Blossom, which can quite often kill the user if you aim at them and use it at the right moment. Genji can also deflect other ultimates to have them work for his team instead of the opposition's, such as Zarya's Graviton Surge, Mei's Blizzard, Trace's Pulse Bomb, and even Hanzo's Dragon Strike. These are a little bit trickier to deflect, but it's still possible to do, and you could have enemy ultimates working for your team instead, saving you and your allies from their effects, plus bouncing it back to the enemy team. So the next ability in the list is Genji's Swift Strike attack, which is a much more offensive ability to cause some damage in closer quarters. It basically lets you dash forwards 14 meters, slicing the air with your katana, and anyone caught within your path will be dealt 50 damage. You won't be able to collide with targets, but instead pass right through them, and it functions a little bit like one of Tracer's blinks, but causes damage to anyone caught within it. If you manage to kill an enemy with the Swift Strike, its cooldown will automatically reset, allowing it to be used again. For this reason, it can often be a good move for finishing off weakened players, as you'll regain the ability back instantly, letting you use it again on another nearby opponent. This means that you can even chain kills together using Swift Strike if there's a bunch of enemy players all on low health nearby, as the Swift Strike can be used repeatedly as you kill them all one by one with it. The cooldown resets even if you didn't use Swift Strike to kill them or didn't cause the kill, but still took part in the elimination. So whenever you get an elimination, just remember that your Swift Strike will be ready again, as that cooldown is reset every time. For causing damage, the ability is best combined with your other abilities, chaining moves together for maximum effect. Which moves to chain together really depends on which target you're taking on and their distance in relation to you. But for taking on enemies further away, you could activate Deflect to advance in their position safely and let them deal damage to themselves if they fire back. Fan the blades once you get close enough to chip away more health, hit them with a quick melee attack, and then dash right through them with the Swift Strike to deal that killing blow. But other than for combat reasons, Swift Strike can also help you out when traversing the map, and for leaping long distances quicker. It can be used to reach objectives slightly faster when rushing back into the battle after death, and also lets you reach platforms, giving you more agility in the air. When combined with your double jumps and wall runs, it'll allow you to get to hard to reach areas, and you'll even be able to save yourself after falling into bottomless pits by jumping and Swift Striking your way back up to safety. The extra speed that you'll gain from the strike can also be handy for retreating a fight, escaping enemies when low on health, or when you desperately need a health pack, it can be used to dash into it quicker, ensuring that you'll make it there in one piece. So last but not least, Genji's ultimate ability, Dragon Blade, is a very powerful close quarters attack that allows you to whip out your sword and slash away at nearby enemies, dealing a massive 120 damage per hit. You won't be able to use Shurikens, but you will be able to deflect and swift strike, along with being able to jump around using cyber agility. The ability will increase your speed slightly, but it'll also leave you quite vulnerable without those throwing stars, so you're best jumping around and making yourself a hard target to hit when engaging, using Deflect whenever you need to safely gain some ground on your next victim. It's generally best waiting for when you have maximum health to survive the duration, and for opportune moments, such as when the opposing team are all clustered together, distracted by your allies. Combining some other abilities and ultimates with the Dragon Blade can often give you the best results. Both Lucio's Sound Barrier and Zenyatta's Orb of Healing will help to keep you alive whilst using the ultimate, though Ana's Nano Boost and Mercy's damage buff will also let you take out opponents even quicker, and when combined with Zarya's Graviton Surge, you'll be able to hack away at multiple targets at once as they're all trapped in the same place. It's a fairly risky ultimate to use at times, but when used at the right moment and alongside smart team play, the results can be devastating. One thing to point out is that it takes round about a second or so to first unsheath the blade, so it's best to hide behind cover or jump through the air whilst doing so, to prevent yourself from being killed in the process. So Genji is a fairly versatile hero with a lot of speed and manoeuvrability on his side, along with a good mix of offensive and defensive skills and abilities for oppressing the enemy team and harassing other players. You will have to be accurate and time those abilities right, often combining them together in chains to both survive and kill, which might take some practice to master. He's generally better as an attacking hero, with his good flanking skills allowing him to take out snipers and other enemy defences more easily. Plus that added agility will allow you to contest objective points for longer by jumping around and over your enemies' heads, giving dead teammates more time to return to the fight after death to assist the capture. He's got a high skill ceiling that can counter a lot of enemy attacks and boasts lethal damage output, being able to finish off enemies quickly and effectively, but you'll often need to predict enemy actions and combine the right abilities together depending on your situation. And that's just about it for this one, folks. Hope the guide helped. Be sure to give me a like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe for plenty more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.